It was just about 10 years ago that the Hare Krishnas first came to Australia. Their saffron robes, their shaven heads, their chanting, dancing and collecting money on the streets didn't exactly endear them to the public at large. And at the same time, like many smaller religious groups, they were the focus of dark rumours and suspicions of brainwashing and cutting young people off from their families. Much of this suspicion remains, but the fact is the Haris have not only held on in Australia, they've expanded their following. And now the first generation of the children of Krishna, Australian-born kids sprouting up in what amounts to an almost totally alien environment. They're growing up on a commune on the far north coast of New South Wales, and they're being taught to dedicate their lives to an Indian vision of God. It's 4:30 in the morning, and already the Hare Krishna children are chanting their homage to the deity. These are the first generation Krishna kids. Australian children, born and raised in an Indian culture, a culture 5,000 years old. Transplanted here to the lush green hills of Murwillumbah on the far north coast of New South Wales.
Asrupuna collectionam Visittantam midam vakyam Uvacha madhusatanaha Asrupuna collectionam Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. They're Aussie kids in as much that they got, 2 arms, 2 legs, so they're the normal Aussie kid. But I see them as unique in as much that already these children are making tangible spiritual advancement, whereas the rest of the young population within Australia are actually becoming more and more immersed in material life.
But in turning their eyes toward the Hare Krishna vision of God, they're also shutting themselves off from the Australian lifestyle. Their teacher, a former computer salesman, makes sure they're taught at least as much about Krishna as they are about the alphabet.
We're not only giving these children an education, we're providing them with a simple and pure culture. They have a unique lifestyle, a very charming, enchanting, clean, spiritual lifestyle. So in this modern age, this degraded materialistic society, it's unique, it's very rare. So these children are different.
People could say that you're isolating these children, you're programming them. Worse still, you're brainwashing them into following the Hare Krishna lifestyle.
Some people say we're isolating these children. I like to think more in terms of we're insulating these children. It's a bit like a young tree or shrub. When it's planted, you quite often see people put a small fence around it like that. And by virtue of that initial protection, the tree grows, and its maturity is very strong, and it's able to give shade and shelter to many people.
And there's no doubt the Hare Krishna children are protected, brought up in a close and loving relationship with every member of the commune. The women here will tell you the love that surrounds the children more than makes up for any lack of lollies and comic books.
The children are protected here and they're looked after nicely. And actually you can see that the children that are growing up now, they're just being completely influenced to take by people taking intoxication. When they get older, they're taking intoxication and having illicit sex with, at such an early age. 10 years old, they're having LSD, marijuana, and their parents are so frightened. Actually, half the parents today are actually very frightened to bring up children because they can see that the children are just falling apart in society. They're taking so much intoxication. And
we're actually giving these children with the initial protection that's necessary in order to make them spiritually potent in their maturity. But at the same time, these children go on field trips, we go to the zoo, the beach, we go on mountain hikes, and we have more visitors in our home here on the Hare Krishna farm than you'd ever have in your normal suburban home.
Even when they're relaxing in the material world, the Krishna kids can never forget the spiritual. But the adults have, of course, chosen to be Hare Krishnas. Their children have had no choice. They've been born to it. And that raises the spectre of brainwashing. People will say that you've programmed those children. You've brainwashed them. But they have no other choice. Bhagawat Ashraya, former actor, now president of the Sydney Temple.
What is it? Programming, indoctrination, what was the other word you used? Brainwashing. These are all pejorative terms. They're all very loosely bandied about. But if you take any education system in any social milieu, you can say it's brainwashing, you can say it's programming, you can say it's indoctrination. You can say that about any education system anywhere in the world. I was programmed to think that I'm Australian. I was programmed to think that I am this body. But I'm not.
The singing and dancing goes on for at least 3 hours every morning. And when it's over, there's still more chanting. Each day, the parents must chant the Hare Krishna mantra 16 times on each of the 108 sacred beads they all carry. Who can tell me who Krishna is?
God. The Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Can you say that again?
The Supreme Personality of Godhead.
And who is this Krishna? What does Krishna look like?
Beautiful. He's blue.
He's coloured blue.
Yes.
And where does he live? Up there?
Yeah. He's everywhere. He's everywhere. He lives in a hut, a tree. He's in the sky. He's on the ground. He's on the ground. He's on a rock. He's everywhere.
You mean he could be right here now?
Water? Yes, he's right. But we haven't got the spiritual eyes to see him.
He could be looking at us right now.
Yes.
You think he is?
Yes. He can hear us, what we're saying, and he can see us.
But you can't see him.
But we've got the material eyes.
It's simple, basic living. A horse and a plough and some land to grow your own food. In fact, it would be hard to imagine a lifestyle more simple than this. But these are not poor farmers. This property cost them $80,000, and they intend to buy some more land around here. It seems that money is no problem to the Hare Krishnas. Last year, they made $2 million. Big business, but legitimate business, they say, in the name of Krishna. It's in the name of Krishna, too, that the women serve two masters, Krishna himself and their husbands. And they do so gladly, living an almost separate existence, always off to one side with the children. Even so, they say they're not slaves.
Well, the slave doesn't have the choice of leaving, you know. A slave doesn't have a choice of his activities. He has to do, you know, like this, and it's forced. We're not actually forced. We have the choice. If we don't want to do this, we can go. You know, but we actually find these things are pleasurable. A slave doesn't find his activities pleasurable.
There seems to be a certain place for a woman here to hold. There seems to be very clear divisions. Women here, men over there. A sort of a segregation. Women who have fought for liberation would say, this is not equality.
A man can't have a baby, so there's not equality there. There's actually not material equality, and a woman's position is actually to serve a man. And we find it very satisfying, you know, to serve our husbands in that way.
But aren't you very much told what to do as a woman in the Hare Krishna movement?
No, we're not told what to do. We just accept a position as serving our husbands nicely. And also our husband looks after us. It's not that we're just serving our husbands. Our husbands are serving us. They're looking after us. They're looking after the children.
Well, we feel very protected, you know, and respected. Yeah.
And respected.
And respected, yeah.
Isn't it possible that your little children might want to do sometime what other Australian kids are doing?
Like what?
Like playing a game of football, game of cricket, going to the beach?
They go to the beach. We all go to the beach a lot. We swim in our river. They play their games. They have games. You see these children play. They're very playful. They're doing all the activities, the playful activities that any child will do.
But they don't do the range of things that Australian children normally do they?
Definitely not. They're being trained up to consider themselves to be servants of Krishna. they're being trained up to understand that by direct perception. It is a reality which can be realized. Your relationship with God is a reality, and you can realize that by going through a certain process.
S-I-L self.
There can be no doubt that the Hare Krishna children are being trained to go through a certain process. But if that suggests brainwashing, the fact is that the New South Wales Department of Education not only approves it, but applauds it. A department inspector has given the Krishna school provisional registration and commended the children's discipline. The inspector says they're the brightest, best-behaved children in the district.
At least in the beginning stages, when one is still a little conditioned.
At 29, Maharaj has taken the oath of celibacy. He's the authority on Krishna consciousness.
Our householders, they have sex once a month. So that having sex once a month means that they plan when is the best time to have a child. They're planning to have a child, and then that child will be brought up in God consciousness. So in other words, that having sex is done for the pleasure of God, not for one's own pleasure. So even the act of having sex, which would normally be a very selfish endeavor, or done for one's own sense satisfaction, even that can be dovetailed in Krishna consciousness.
Goverdhan Hare Krishna, Tamaham Vajrami.
So these children, then, are the results of that dovetailing for Krishna. For them, quite naturally, there's no thought of anything but the Hare Krishna lifestyle.
My dear Arjun, how have these impurities come upon you?
What are the things that Krishna teaches you?
Teaches you to be Krishna conscious. Yes.
What does that mean?
Chanting and dancing and glorifying the Lord.
And you, all your life, you want to serve Krishna. That's what you want to do, isn't it?
Nothing else. Nothing else.
Last week we showed you something of the lifestyle of the children of Krishna. These are Australian kids born into the Hare Krishna religion and being brought up in a commune in northern New South Wales. We mentioned the atmosphere seemed happy and loving, but we also raised the question whether the children were being alienated from the rest of Australian society through a form of brainwashing. What is programming, indoctrination? What was the other word you used? Brainwashing. These are all pejorative terms. They're all very loosely bandied about. But if you take any education system in any social milieu, you can say it's brainwashing, you can say it's programming, you can say it's indoctrination. You can say that about any education system anywhere in the world. I was programmed to think that I'm Australian. I was programmed to think that I am this body. But I'm not. Now, a few letter writers thought we had no right to raise the questions we did and that our story was biased. For example, Richard Smith. I was appalled by your knocker presentation. Then again, there were some writers who thought it was irresponsible for us to even show the Hare Krishnas in the first place. Oh, wonderful, you've done it again, says David Fox. You've given exposure to yet another cult and no doubt persuaded more people into sympathy for them. But by far, the biggest reaction was from viewers who liked what they saw. Says Nicky Gillings, having been brought up a Catholic, I'm well versed in indoctrination and conditioning. I resent deeply that my religious instruction was not the joyful, peaceful experience that the children of Krishna have. And Jean Murty, these people could well benefit our society by spreading a commodity which is sadly lacking in this day and age, and that is love. And Barry Nixon, after seeing your program about their school, I'm thinking of sending my children there. I would like to see them as happy as the children you showed.